one of the greatest military commanders, and a risk-taking gambler, a workaholic genius, and an impatient yet witty short-term planner, a vicious cynic who forgave his closest betrayers, a woman-hater who could capture the attention of his men. Napoleon Bonaparte was all of these and more, the twice Emperor of France, whose military endeavors and sheer personality dominated Europe in person for a decade and in thought for a century. Napoleon was born August 15, 1769, in Corsica. His father, Charles Bonaparte, was a lawyer whose family stemmed from the Florentine nobility. His mother, Maria Laetitia Bonaparte, was given the title Madame Mère at Napoleon's court. Napoleon Bonaparte called himself the son of the Revolution. He even believed that he himself was the Revolution. Because he was part of the Florentine nobility, Napoleon obtained a scholarship to study at a military school in France. His education in French military schools led to his commission in 1785 as a lieutenant. Although, according to his peers, he was not well liked because he was short, spoke with an Italian accent, and had little money. For the next 7 years, Napoleon educated himself in military matters by studying the campaigns of great military leaders from the past. In 1792, he became a captain, and because he performed so well as an amazing artillery commander, at the age of only 25, he was promoted to the rank of brigadier general in 1794. In October of 1795, he saved the National Convention from the Parisian mob, and in 1796, he was made commander of the French army in Italy. Napoleon then whipped a group of soldiers into an effective fighting force, and was able to defeat the Austrians and dictated peace to them in 1797. Napoleon had won the confidence of his men by his intelligence, energy, charm, and by being witty in his decision-making. At the age of 30, he returned to France as a conquering hero and was in charge of an army that was training to invade England. Because he didn't believe the French were ready for such an invasion, he wanted to instead strike indirectly at Britain by taking Egypt and threatening India, which is a major source of British wealth. But the British counterattacked him by cutting off supplies from Napoleon's army in Egypt. At the age of 30, he became a complete dictator of France by abandoning his army and returning to Paris, where he participated in the coup d'etat. With the coup d'etat of 1799, a new form of the Republic was proclaimed, with a constitution that established a bicameral legislative assembly elected indirectly to reduce the role of elections. Executive power in the new government was vested in the hands of 3 consuls. As the first consul, Napoleon controlled the entire executive authority of government, had a great influence over the legislature, appointed members of the bureaucracy, controlled the army, and conducted foreign affairs. In 1802, Napoleon was made consul for life, and in 1804 he returned France to monarchy when he crowned himself as Emperor Napoleon I. This step was not only the start of his enormous ego, but also the start of his dictatorship. In 1801, Napoleon made peace with the Catholic Church. He was not devoted to any religion. He was a rationalist who regarded religion at most as a convenience. By signing the Concordat, the Pope acknowledged the accomplishments of the Revolution. Although Catholicism was not reestablished as a state religion, Napoleon was willing to recognize Catholicism as the religion of a majority of the French people. As a result of the Concordat, the Catholic Church was no longer an enemy of the French government. Before the Revolution began, France did not have a single set of laws. Instead, it had 300 different legal systems. It was necessary to prepare a codification of laws for the entire nation. Napoleon was put in charge of bringing the work to completion in 7 codes of law, of which the most important was the Civil Code, or Code Napoleon. These codes recognized the principle of equality of all citizens before the law, the right of individuals to choose their professions, religious toleration, and the abolition of serfdom and feudalism. Napoleon worked on creating a powerful and centralized bureaucracy of capable officials. Promotion was to be based not on rank or birth, but only on demonstrated abilities. Napoleon also created a new aristocracy based on merit in the state service. He created over 3,000 nobles between 1808 and 1814. Nearly 60% were military officers, and the rest came from upper ranks of the civil service. Napoleon's domestic policies both destroyed and preserved aspects of the revolution. Napoleon shut down 60 of France's 73 newspapers and insisted that all the manuscripts be subjected to government scrutiny before they were published. One prominent writer, Madame de Staël, refused to accept Napoleon's growing despotism. De Staël wrote novels and political works that denounced Napoleon's rule as tyrannical. As a result, Napoleon banned her books in France and exiled her to the German states. When Napoleon became consul in 1799, France was at war with Great Britain, Russia, and Austria. Yet Napoleon aspired to have peace instead of war. The peace he sought was achieved at Amiens in 1802 and left France with new frontiers in a number of client territories from the North Sea to the Adriatic. But peace did not last because both the British and the French regarded it as temporary and had little intention of sticking to the terms. In 1803, once again there was a war against Britain, which was soon joined by Austria, Russia, and Prussia in the Third Coalition. In a series of battles from 1805 to 1807, Napoleon's Grand Army defeated the continental members of the coalition, which gave Napoleon the opportunity to create a new European order. Napoleon considered himself leader of the whole. Within his empire, Napoleon demanded obedience. His growing egotism required obedience to his will. Although Napoleon was a dictator who forced obedience of his people, he accepted legal equality, religious toleration, and economic freedom. Napoleon tried to destroy the old order of estates. Nobility and clergy everywhere in his states lost their special privileges. He wanted everybody to be equal before the law and equal opportunities for everybody. Napoleon had hoped that his grand empire would last for centuries, but it collapsed almost as rapidly as it had been formed. Two major reasons that led to the downfall are the survival of Great Britain and the force of nationalism. The beginning of Napoleon's downfall came in 1812 with his invasion of Russia. A grand army of more than 600,000 men entered Russia, but the Russian forces refused to battle, retreated, and left Napoleon's army in the cold without food or forage. Napoleon had decided to raise another army and attack the nearest Allied forces stationed in Belgium. At the Battle of Waterloo on June 18, 1815, Napoleon met a combined British and Prussian army under the Duke of Wellington and suffered a bloody defeat. This was the end of Napoleon Bonaparte and his policies.